My family came to Dearborn the night of the Detroit riots, and so this was my introduction to Dearborn. Driving down a deserted road, going from Metro Airport to Dearborn, and the eeriest feeling was nobody was talking. It was so quiet. I didn't know what was going on. And then later, I would find out the real scene that we had walked into. We had traveled for nearly 2 days from Kuwait via London. We had fled the violence of war-torn Middle East only to find rioting, fires, snipers, and federal troops policing the streets of nearby Detroit. Boy, why did we come to America, I asked. Poverty loomed, stores were looted, tanks and machine guns were used to keep the peace. My father had decided to leave the Middle East after the June 1967 Six-Day War to bring his family to what he thought would be a safer land. He chose Dearborn because my mother's family from Lebanon had settled here some 20 years earlier. I was 10 years old when we settled in Dearborn in the summer of 1967. Although the images of the riots loomed in my mind of many years, it was not until I was 18 years old that I began frequenting downtown Detroit when I landed a job with an ad agency located in the Penobscot building. By the time I attended Stout Junior High and then Edsel Ford High School, I had traded in my uniform for bell-bottom jeans, hip-hugging blue jeans, and skin-tight midriff tops. It was the mid-70s, the hippie movement was in full swing, and groups like the Beatles, the Doors, Santana, Jefferson Airplane, and The Who were popular on the radio. WRIF-FM brought them all home to me in Dearborn. I also had a lot of other experiences since coming to Dearborn. I've left and come back many times. I attended Henry Ford College right out of graduation when I was at Edsel Ford. I graduated in 1975. I also was a journalist while I was in school at Edsel Ford and was very interested in writing. I actually was here during the time when the Fairlane Mall was built. And while I was at Henry Ford, I toured here and went with Ford Land Development and actually did a story about the Fairlane Mall. But I didn't want to stay in school. I wanted to go out west. I had other dreams, and I wanted to explore this country. I think part of being someone who's traveled the world and lived in other places, you always want to explore other people, other cultures, and cities. And so that has always been part of who I am. A photographer, a traveler, a person who wants to learn from other people and other cultures. I didn't marry until very late in life. Instead, I chose a career. After advertising, I did return back to school and did earn both a bachelor's degree and a master's at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Between that time, I went to Washington and worked as a journalist for 5 years. And that really was a life-altering experience. Being part of the press corps in Washington, being involved with 2,000 other journalists from around the world, and being in the seat of government was probably the most important event in my life. And I came back to Dearborn because as someone who is naturally curious, you can't just stay in one place if you want to learn. You have to go out. You have to gather information, and then you come back and then you write what you learned. And in my reflections, I share with you some of it in Best Dearborn Stories, and I hope to share many more.